Okay, so I was just checking YouTube before I started up this video, and I happened to notice that on the Crunchyroll Collections channel, Black Clover's opening 13 Grandeur has passed over 3.6 million views. I think this might be the quickest amount of views that a Black Clover opening has gotten. Even the most popular ones have gotten in such a short amount of time. I mean, think about it. The video's only been out a week, and it's already passed 3.6 million views. Not to mention last week when the episode aired for the first time and the opening premiered, it was the #1 trending thing on Twitter. So it just goes to show, like I said, people are hyped for this upcoming arc. Okay, so I can definitely say that the biggest difference between episode 158 and 159 is the pacing, because by the time I got done watching episode 158 for the first time, I thought to myself, wait, it's over already? That can't be. There's no way this was 24 minutes. But then, of course, when it came to this week's episode, by the time it was done, I felt like I had been watching for about 45 minutes. And I think the reason for that was because not only was last week's episode, the first episode post a time skip, it was introducing the brand new arc, but also because last week's episode was very action-packed and it actually tried to encompass 3 chapters worth of story. While this week's chapter was a lot slower paced, it didn't really have to delve that much into action. In fact, there wasn't really any action until near the end of the episode, and it really only covered 2 chapters worth of story. Chapters, I want to say 232 and 233. And honestly, because this episode felt a lot longer than they normally do, I'd actually thought when I first watched it that they had actually taken events that were going to be happening in future chapters and moved them into this chapter to make them fit in the timeline. But if you actually look back on chapters 230, I think I said 232 and 233, the events in those chapters are pretty much beat for beat what happens in this episode, with a few added scenes to pad onto the runtime. For example, that bath scene with the girls, that actually happens in chapter 232 near the middle or towards the end of it. And in the manga, Nero wasn't there, so her being there added a little bit of fluff to the conversation. And that whole conversation with Asta, or, evolving Asta and who's dating him, didn't happen in the manga either, so that was more fluff they added in. But I feel like they added that scene in, or they added that conversation in, to basically cut away from the scene that we get from the manga that opens up the bath scene, where we actually get to see Lord Pachika groping Mimosa, which it makes sense that they would take that out because the anime is more geared towards children, obviously, so because of the fact that children can't be watching 2 girls groping each other in a bath scene, even though other anime have done it, but those animes were, for more mature audiences. Also, speaking of that scene, we actually get a moment where they actually ask Lord Pachika if her and Gaja have a thing going on, and she flat out denies it, which in the manga, I had actually mentioned in possibly past reviews, or at the very least, I've mentioned to other people when talking about Black Clover that I thought that Lord Pachika and Gaja, they might be hinting a little bit of romance there, at least on Gaja's side, and the things are not looking good for Gaja. And when speaking of Gaja, we actually do get a pretty cool scene, or at least I found it kind of cool and interesting, of where we get to see him, Luck, and Leo all training together again. And again, this wasn't in the manga, this was something that they added into the anime to kind of pad the runtime of the episode. But I thought it was actually kind of interesting hearing him say that basically because Luck and Leo have gotten so much stronger over the past 6 months, training with them or fighting against them, sparring against them basically is great training for him as well. And this scene really does give us another nice moment to see exactly how devoted he is to protecting Lord Pachika. Now, going back to the bath scene real quick, that whole conversation that Lord Pachika has with the girls, talking about how when she's in front of everyone in the Heart Kingdom, she has to put on an act and be, proper royalty to them. But when she's with the girls, she can actually just be herself and be true to herself because she actually sees them as equals and friends. And that scene, it was a lot more emotional and it hit harder in the anime than it did in the manga. And don't get me wrong, it was an emotional scene in the manga. But you can really see in like her facial expressions and in her tone of voice how truly grateful she actually is that Noelle, Mimosa, Nero, Asta, and all of them had come into her life and actually gave her the chance to actually have true friends. And when you put it into the context that prior to meeting any of these characters, she more than likely thought that within a year's time she would end up dying due to the curse, and how depressing it must have been for her every day having a ticking clock over her head, you can tell that in this moment right here where she's actually being able to let loose and actually enjoy herself with some actual true friends really means a lot to her. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys, when we get to the charming parts of the episode, fucking hilarious. I fucking loved that entire part of the episode, like the entire sequence of Charmy going on like her rampage because of how obsessed she is with food. Fucking loved it. It was 10 times better watching it animated than it was reading it in the manga. And don't get me wrong, the manga version of it was funny as hell as well, but they really played it up in the anime by giving us more context to how she became the way she is, and finding out that she like basically went to the forest and took over pretty much all the animals and basically made them her food slaves by having the monkeys gather food for her and beating up wild bears in the forest for rare fruit. That was fucking hilarious and 10 out of 10 pure charming moments. She was literally being Big Mom from One Piece in this episode by going through the village in the Heart Kingdom and trying to take everyone's dinner away from them. And man, watching this episode, you really feel for Poltroff, especially now that we actually had the context of what the training that he did with Charmy and Real were like, because the two of them were pretty much already just geniuses who initially, right away, understood how to make a raise, so they didn't really even need him for much. He was pretty much literally just there to kind of just watch them as they figured things out on their own. Now that scene with him and Asta teaming up to fight against Charmy's giant sheep, that was added filler for the anime, because in the manga we don't actually get to see Asta after she initially confronts Charmy and tries to like get her to calm down on eating all the food in the forest. He kind of goes missing in the next chapter for a little bit until after Real shows up and actually uses the initial attack that he did in this chapter or in this episode to kind of like cut away at Charmy's giant sheep, and then Asta gets freed, and then the two of them team up and then do the same attack they did at the end of the episode to basically take out her sheep and capture her. So again, it was added filler, but it actually was kind of nice again to see Asta and Poltroff team up with each other, because we don't get to see much of Poltroff in this chapter in the manga. Also, again, it was hilarious seeing the moment where Asta tried to tell Real that the beautiful girl that saved him when he was being possessed by an elf is actually Charmy, and Real just completely denying it and not even trying to listen to any Asta's words. And then we get to the ending of the episode and we get the big reveal of Yuno going back to Hage Village and meeting up with Sister and meeting the guy who came from the Spade Kingdom, who we know is part of the Resistance, but we haven't been revealed what his name is in the anime just yet, so I'm going to hold off on saying it for you guys for right now. I'm sure we're going to get it in next week's episode. But we get to reveal that basically he came from the Spade Kingdom, and initially Yuno wants to fight off against, no, not Yuno, Bell wants to fight against him, but he tells him that he's not a threat. He tells him the peaceful history of the Spade Kingdom, which, by the way, looking at that like flashback that he had, yeah, they looked peaceful, but I honestly would not want to live in the Spade Kingdom at all, with, you know, snow covering the ground all year round. I am someone who's very weak to the cold, so living in a cold place like that would kill me. But he talks about how the Spade Kingdom, or the Spade Kingdom, like I said, was very peaceful until the Dark Triad took over and killed off the royal family. And we end up finding out that the reason why he's here in Hage Village looking for Yuno, as he keeps calling him Lord Yuno in the chapter, or in the episode, is because, as the big reveal gets to it at the end of the episode, Yuno is the crowned prince of the Spade Kingdom. Okay, so I actually watch most of my anime on the Crunchyroll app Verve, and when I actually got done watching the episode, seeing the comments go crazy about how Yuno is the Spade Kingdom prince and how that was such like a big drop at the very end of the episode, man, I could see all you anime only fans just, you know, losing your minds. Keep in mind, this is exactly how we manga readers reacted when we got the chapter over a year ago. Now, normally with this big reveal at the end of the episode, I would want to speculate on exactly what this could mean for the future of Yuno in the series, but since I read the manga and I already know what's going to be coming up, I can't really speculate on anything without giving too many spoilers away. So I'm just going to let you guys in the anime section who only watch anime basically go down in the comment section down below and tell me what you think is going to be coming up with Yuno. Don't look at any spoilers online. Don't, you know, go read a Wikipedia page or anything like that. Just off the top of your head, what do you think this means for Yuno now? Does that mean that, you know, he's going to go to the Spade Kingdom and take it over and become the king? What's going to happen with Yuno going forward? Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on that. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. The episode was amazing. Like I said, it felt a lot slower paced than the last episode did. But if you go back and read chapter 232 and 233, the chapters this episode is based off of, those chapters also feel kind of slow paced compared to the prior 3 chapters. And don't worry, not every episode going forward is going to be this slow paced, and maybe next week as well, but when it comes to the episodes following that, there's going to be a lot of fast-paced action coming up, so just get ready for that. But that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, I'm going to try to continue, as long as the episodes stay entertaining, I'm going to try to continue reviewing Black Clover episodes week by week going forward. So, look forward to next week's video, as long as the episode's very entertaining. But that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.